Welcome to SATV News. This is Tushamin with our headlines. BNP has not adopted any covert disguise in the name of strategy, says Tariq Rahman, urges vigilance against threats to democracy. Banks looted in broad daylight for 15 years, says foreign advisor, significant portions siphoned off through accounting manipulation. And appeal hearings on candidacy concluded for 8th day. Hasnat candidacy upheld. EU election observation mission deploys 56 observer. More to arrive. Now in details. BNP chairman Tariq Rahman said BNP has not adopted any covert or dormant disguise in the name of strategy. Calling on people across the country to remain vigilant, BNP chairman Tariq Rahman also said that attempts are being made to create excuses and controversies that could obstruct the path of democracy. He made these remarks today while addressing a discussion with the families of people who were victims of enforced disappearances, killings and torture during the Awami League period. The event was held at the China-Bangladesh Friendship Conference Center in the capital. Listening to the accounts of relatives of forcibly disappeared person, the BNP chairperson broke down in tears. He said that the future government will have great responsibility towards those who were disappeared and those who were martyred in the anti-fascist movement. The BNP leader further said that if his party, with the support of the people of Bangladesh, comes to power, roads and key public and private institutions will be named after martyrs so that generations can remember them with pride. Foreign advisor MD Tauhid Hussain today said vast sums of money were laundered out of the country over the past 15 years, much of it through what he described as banks being looted in broad daylight. He added that a significant portion was also siphoned off through accounting manipulation. He made these remarks at the opening ceremony of the South Asian Federation of Accountants International Conference held at a hotel in the capital. Mr. Tauhid also said that as a responsible neighbor and active member of the United Nations and other international organizations, Bangladesh supports a rules-based international order and collective action to address global economic challenges. He further expressed encouragement at seeing experts, practitioners and thinkers from South Asia and beyond gathered at the conference, adding that their discussion would guide the next generation of professionals to emphasize integrity, accountability and innovation. Meanwhile, advisor of the Ministries of Housing and Public Works, Industries and Local Government, Rural Development and Cooperatives, Adidur Rahman Khan today urged people to vote yes in the referendum scheduled for February 12 to uphold the spirit of a new Bangladesh. Speaking as a chief guest at a public awareness meeting on the referendum organized by the Cox's Bazar District Administration at a public library hall, the advisor also said the July Charter and the new Bangladesh were achieved through the sacrifices of the July martyrs and fighters. At the same time, he stated that Bangladesh must be free from fascism, discrimination, enforced disappearances and crossfire killings. Besides, equal rights for all ethnic communities will be ensured, he added. Following the meeting, the advisor inaugurated the voter gari for referendum at the Deputy Commissioner's office premises. The Election Commission today continued the 8th day of appeal hearings against the decision of returning officers over the acceptance and rejection of nomination papers for the 13th parliamentary election. The hearings began at 10 a.m. at the auditorium of the Election Commission building in the Agarga area here. The full commission, chaired by Chief Election Commissioner A.M. Nasiruddin, conducted the hearings. According to the schedule announced by the EC, a total of 100 appeals bearing serial numbers from 511 to 610 were heard today between 10 a.m. and 5 p.m. within 1 hour recess at noon. The The Commission cancelled the candidacy of Bangladesh Nationalist Party's Monzurul Ahsan Munshi and upheld that of National Citizen Party candidate Hasnat Abdullah in Kumilla 4. Earlier on Friday, the 7th day of hearings, the Commission heard 43 appeals. Of these, 18 appeals filed against the rejection of nomination papers were allowed, while 17 were dismissed. 4 appeals were kept pending for verdicts. In addition, 4 appeals lodged against the acceptance of other candidates' nomination papers were dismissed. Meanwhile, the European Union Election Observation Mission has said it does not expect to issue any security alerts while monitoring Bangladesh's parliamentary election. Speaking during a media briefing in Dhaka today, Inta Lassi, the mission's deputy chief observer, said the EU team was operating with its own security arrangements and did not anticipate serious safety concerns during its work. The mission has already deployed 56 long-term observers across Bangladesh ahead of the February 12 vote, with more observers set to arrive as polling day approaches. Lassi said the mission would assess whether the election was being conducted in line with Bangladesh's domestic laws as well as international and regional commitment the current country has signed up to. A teenager was killed in a shootout between 2 groups in Cox's Bazar, Teknaf. The incident took place in the Noakhali Para area of Bahar Chora Union in Upazila on Friday. The deceased has been identified as Sumaya Akhtar, daughter of MD Sadek Ahmed of the area. Confirming the matter, Teknaf Model Police Station officer in charge, Saiful Islam, said that the deceased body has been sent to Cox's Bazar Shodor Hospital for autopsy. An operation is underway to arrest those involved, the OC added. Two people were killed and 10 others injured. A triangular collision among 3 buses on the Dhaka-Sylhet highway in Osmani Nagar Upazila of Sylhet district today. The accident occurred around 7 a.m. when 3 vehicles, including the Sylhet-bound Shamoli Poribahon bus, hit the Dhaka-bound buses of Ena Poribahon and Unique Poribahon coming from opposite direction, leaving 2 killed on the spot and 10 others injured, said Munayam Mia, officer in charge of Osmani Nagar Police Station. Upon receiving information, police and fire servicemen rushed to the spot and recovered the bodies. The injured were taken to a local hospital. We're also taking a short break. Please stay with us.
সারা দেশে লাখো মানুষের কঠোর কর্মতৎপরতা ও নিষ্ঠায় এসএ পরিবহন পার্সেল অ্যান্ড কুরিয়ার সার্ভিস এখন 16 কোটি মানুষের হাতের নাগালে। দীর্ঘ 30 বছর ধরে বিশ্বস্ততা ও দ্রুততার সাথে সেবা দেওয়ায় গ্রাহক সেবায় এখন শীর্ষে। বাংলাদেশে গ্রাহক সেবার সাফল্যের পর এসএ পরিবহন পার্সেল অ্যান্ড কুরিয়ার সার্ভিস এখন বিশ্ব বাণিজ্য কেন্দ্র সিঙ্গাপুরে। আপনার যে কোনো পণ্য সিঙ্গাপুর থেকে বাংলাদেশে বুকিং এর জন্য যোগাযোগ করুন। এসএ পরিবহন প্রাইভেট লিমিটেড, লজিস্টিক্স পার্সেল অ্যান্ড কুরিয়ার সার্ভিস, 22 রবার্টস লেন, সিঙ্গাপুর 218302। ফোন 0065 629 24900।
Welcome back. You're watching SATV News. Now news from abroad. US President Donald Trump said on Friday that the United States is talking with NATO about Greenland, repeating his assertion that the Arctic island is vital to US national security. Speaking to reporters before departing for West Palm Beach in Florida, Trump said the U.S. needs Greenland to avoid what he described as a major security gap, citing missile defense and broader military consideration. He did not rule out further steps to secure U.S. interests there, saying discussions with NATO were ongoing. Trump's comments come amid heightened tensions between Washington and European allies over Greenland, an autonomous territory of Denmark. Several NATO members have recently increased their focus on the Arctic, citing concern about growing Russian and Chinese activity in the region.
Venezuela, you saw that with the attack on Iran with the
Iranian opposition figure Reza Pahlavi on Friday urged the international community to ramp up pressure on the Iranian government to help protesters overthrow clerical rule, even as a deadly crackdown appears to have broadly quelled demonstrations. Pahlavi, the exiled son of Iran's toppled Shah, held a news conference in Washington, D.C. on Friday morning to call for political, economic and military pressure on Tehran. He said that large sections of the Iranian army and security forces have whispered their loyalty to him and that he is uniquely positioned to ensure a stable transition for the country. The Iranian people are taking decisive action on the ground. It is now time for the international community to join them fully, Pahlavi further said. The U.S. Justice Department has opened a criminal investigation of Minnesota officials, including Governor Tim Walz and Minneapolis Mayor Jacob Frey, over an alleged conspiracy to impede immigration agents, a source familiar with the probe said on Friday. The investigation stems from statements made by Walz and Frey about the thousands of immigration and custom enforcement officers and border patrol agents deployed to the Minneapolis region in recent weeks under orders from President Donald Trump, the source said. Reacting on social media, Walz, who unsuccessfully ran for the vice presidency in 2024 election won by Trump, said the federal justice system was being weaponized to intimidate Trump's perceived political enemies. The White House on Friday announced names of the so-called Board of Peace that will supervise the temporary governance of Gaza. The names included U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio, Donald Trump's Special Envoy Steve Witkoff, former British Prime Minister Tony Blair, and Trump's son-in-law Jared Kushner, the White House said. Trump is the chair of the board according to his plan revealed late last year, under which a fragile ceasefire was reached in Gaza. The board members will oversee a defined portfolio critical to Gaza's stabilization and long-term success, the White House said, including governance, capacity building, regional relation construction, investment attraction, large-scale funding, and capital mobilization. Bulgarian diplomat and former senior United Nations official Nicole Lavenor will serve as the High Representative for Gaza, according to the statement. Meanwhile, Israeli soldiers shot dead a Palestinian hurling a rock at them in the occupied West Bank, the military said on Friday. And the Palestinian Health Ministry said the person killed was a 14-year-old boy. Official Palestinian news agency Wafa said the teen was killed during an Israeli military raid that led to confrontations. The Israeli military said its forces were called to the area after receiving reports that Palestinians were throwing stones at Israelis and blocking a road with burning tires. The soldiers fired warning shots in an attempt to repel a person who was running at them with a rock, the military said, and then shot and killed him to eliminate the danger. Venezuela will begin routing revenues from oil sales through the country's central bank as part of its foreign exchange system, said interim President Delcy Rodriguez on Friday. Speaking during a meeting with the National Economic Council broadcast on Venezuelan government television, Rodriguez said oil-scale proceeds will arrive through the central bank of Venezuela and then reach private banks for the foreign exchange market mechanism. Her remarks came as 4 Venezuelan banks were notified this week. They will split $300 million in oil revenues deposited in an account in Qatar, enabling the banks to sell dollars to Venezuelan companies that need foreign currency to pay for imported materials, according to financial sources. In the same meeting, Rodriguez said a contract had been signed to commercialize liquefied petroleum gas and that Venezuela would export its first molecule of gas. Meanwhile, supporters of abducted Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro and First Lady Celia Flores marched in Caracas on Friday to demand their release following their capture by the U.S. forces on January 3rd. The rally, called this time by Venezuela's farming sector, featured banners, flags and pictures of Maduro and Flores. Marchers moved through central Caracas and gathered near the vice presidency. Maduro allies have held daily marches calling for his release since his capture on January 3rd, which Venezuelan authorities said occurred during an attack that killed at least 100 people, including 47 Venezuelan military personnel. Maduro is accused of overseeing a cocaine trafficking network with international drug cartels and faces 4 criminal counts: narcoterrorism, cocaine importation, conspiracy and possession of machine guns and destructive devices. However, Maduro has denied the allegation, saying they were a mask for imperialist designs on Venezuela's rich oil reserves. Thousands of Cubans gathered before the U.S. Embassy in Havana at daybreak Friday to protest against what they denounced as U.S. aggression in the region following the capture of Venezuelan leader Nicolas Maduro, a Cuban ally. Cubans gathered on the capital's Malecon waterfront boulevard, waving Cuban and Venezuelan flags under gray skies as blustery winds and waves buffeted the coast. Cuban President Miguel Diaz-Canel, dressed in olive green military garb and with his back to the U.S. Embassy, called on Cubans to remain united in the face of U.S. pressure. Tension between the two longtime rivals has spiked since the U.S. attack on Venezuela, which resulted in the deaths of 32 Cuban military and intelligence officers, believed to be defending Maduro, were killed, marking the first clashes between the U.S. and Cuban forces in decades. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky said on Friday that Allied supplies of air defense systems and missiles were insufficient and warned Russia was preparing new massive strikes. During his evening address, Zelensky also said it was crucial that partners heard Ukraine's request for additional supply. A Ukrainian delegation is en route to the U.S. for talks on security guarantees and a post-war recovery package. President Volodymyr Zelensky said on Friday, expressing hope the documents could be signed on the sidelines of the World Economic Forum in Davos next week. During the talks, Kyiv team also hopes to get clarity from the U.S. on the Russian stance towards U.S.-backed diplomatic efforts to end the nearly 4-year war. Zelensky told a news conference in Kyiv alongside Czech President Petr Pavel.
Допомагайте тим, хто поруч з вами, на самоті.
Ugandan opposition leader Bobby Wine was able to escape from the military, his son Solomon Kampala said in a video posted to social media platform X on Saturday, as Ugandan police denied the presidential candidate was arrested. Wine's National Unity platform said on Friday night an army helicopter landed in his compound in Kampala and forcibly took him away to an unknown destination as President Yoweri Museveni closed in on a landslide re-election. Reuters could not immediately verify the claim. National Police spokesperson Ketuma Rusori told a televised news conference that Wine was at his home and free to move. Wine has alleged mass fraud during Thursday's election held under an internet blackout and called on supporters to protest. His party said on Thursday that he had been placed under effective house arrest. Thousands of supporters of Yemen's UAE-backed separatist Southern Transitional Council gathered in the port city of Aden on Friday for a large rally called by the separatist group, demanding the release of an STC delegation which they claim was detained in Saudi Arabia. An STC delegation traveled to the Saudi capital Riyadh earlier this week for talks that its leader Zubaydi skipped. In an announcement broadcast on Saudi state media on Friday, one of the group's members said the STC had decided to disband. But in a statement issued on Saturday, the STC said it had held an extraordinary meeting following the announcement in Riyadh and declared it null and void, saying it had been made under coercion and pressure. The group also said its members in Riyadh had been detained and were being forced to issue statements. Before ending, we'll go to the headlines again. BNP has not adopted any covert disguise in the name of strategy, says Tariq Rahman, urges vigilance against threats to democracy. Banks looted in broad daylight for 15 years, says foreign advisor. Significant portion siphoned off through accounting manipulation. And appeal hearings on candidacy concluded for 8 days. Hasnat candidacy upheld. EU election observation mission deploys 56 observer mode to arrive. You're updated with the top stories so far here on SATV, and to know the latest news, visit www.satv.tv. Stay with SATV.